Gracias. Bueno, pues podemos pasar ahora a debatir, a la ronda de preguntas. ¿Alguien tiene una pregunta?
Quería preguntarte si este proyecto que has realizado tiene mucho que ver con el proyecto que tú presentaste, porque me parece recordar que hablamos algo así del manejo de sombras. Pues no sé, yo creo que sí, ¿no? Te quería preguntar si este proyecto que tú has realizado tiene mucho que ver con el proyecto que tú presentaste, porque me parece recordar que tu orientación era sobre el manejo de sombras o algo así. Me parece recordar cuando te votamos. Y fue una de las que
Es que el manejo de sombras.
Es que no lo recuerdo bien el proyecto que presentaste. A mí me parece que era muy distinto a lo que he realizado luego.
Creo que no.
¿No?
Creo que no.
Entonces será que yo no lo interpreté bien, perdón.
¿Estás hablando de qué? ¿De la beca de generación 2001?
Sí.
Sí. No, en el proyecto que yo presenté, de hecho, presenté el mismo cuerpo, excepto que en un estado muchísimo más primitivo, porque en un estado mucho más primitivo de descomposición, porque lo que yo estaba presentando era un proyecto para pedir dinero para la producción, para poder hacerlo bien con buenos medios, pero lo que yo presenté fue exactamente el mismo cuerpo en un estado muy primitivo que se estaba descomponiendo, y yo iba explicando, y según yo iba explicando podías ver cómo el cuerpo se iba disgregando al sonido de mi voz que explicaba la pieza. Creo que de todas formas, el tema de las sombras, que no lo he mencionado yo ahora mismo, pero yo creo que Ken ha hablado muy bien de ello. El tema de las sombras es un poco, o sea, la sombra es una especie como de eco, es una especie de eco del cuerpo, por así decirlo. Para mí, la imagen electrónica también es un eco del cuerpo, de igual forma que podríamos pensar que a lo mejor la imagen electrónica es una sombra del cuerpo, es una sombra tecnológica del cuerpo. O sea que yo creo que en todo caso sí sería muy interesante poder debatir en todo caso eso, pero sí, yo creo que sí tiene que ver. Y por ejemplo también lo que Gente estaba comentando de las sombras en el concepto de la decomposición digital de las voces. Una de las cosas que a mí me interesaba en el proyecto era que de alguna forma, no solo en el tiempo real, en el tiempo presente de la sala, tú puedas influir en ese proceso de descomposición y recreación y regeneración digital, sino que tú puedas dejar algo tuyo, una sombra tuya en ese caso, un eco tuyo. Entonces, es así como si tú entras en la instalación y sumas, haces un esfuerzo de comunicar, tu voz se suma a ese entorno sonoro de voces digitalmente descompuestas, y al cabo de un tiempo, que en este caso está hecho para que sea unos 70 segundos, un poco más de un minuto, al cabo de un tiempo tú puedes escuchar tu propia voz, esa voz, ese esfuerzo que has hecho, ese intento de comunicación que tú has hecho con ese cuerpo digital, escucharás como eso se influye, se descompone digitalmente y se añade a la descomposición digital, al entorno sonoro de la sala. Entonces, tú imagínate que cuando te hayas ido, después de haber hablado en ese espacio, cuando te hayas ido, tu voz se queda ahí, progresivamente descomponiéndose, digitalmente descomponiéndose. Es como si dejases un eco, una sombra tuya en esa sala, que sigue realimentándose, o sea, se incluye en el proceso de realimentación sonora que hay en la sala. No sé si eso...
Perdón, es que no entiendo. Gracias.
¿Alguna pregunta más?
¿Ya está? I speak English, but it's easier. There is another aspect to this, and that is the story of the butterfly in Africa. Everybody knows this story about the butterfly flaps its wings somewhere in the southern, near Australia, and it brings about a huge tornado in the Caribbean. You see, so there is a reinforcement as well. You only speak of just things disappearing. And I think you could as well go the other way around and make certain signals and strengthen them over time, and they become more and more important, and then don't go away. You see what I mean? Because you talk about this, this integration of the signal.
It's actually, I would say that the disintegration or the erosion of the signal is very important. However, what I said is also the resonance is very important, and this what you're referring to is what I think was once coined the sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. And in this sense, the initial conditions we have to work with are the acoustics of the room itself. And although most of the time the piece is about decay, however, because there is a feedback system happening in the room, of which you act as a filter in this feedback system. Right? So the filters in the system would be the room and yourself. And you're also a generator or a source material in this room. And if you were to, for example, produce noises in this room which resonate at the acoustics of this room, you would have the opposite of erosion, which you would have a gradual tsunami of sound in the points where the acoustics resonate with the room, with the microphones, with your bodies actually also, and with the speakers. We try to avoid that the installation would turn into some kind of tsunami for obvious reasons. However, one can experiment with this phenomenon on a short-term level. So over 5 minutes, for example, one could create a sort of very resonant body. Indeed. However, we do have tsunami protection built into the system, so that it will it will stop after a while. I hope that answers your question.
Franz, te quería preguntar, me parece que la obra final, ¿no?, que podemos ver aquí es un poco también, a mí me sugiere, ¿no?, por un lado el que trata la cuestión, el mito de la sala de control, ¿no? Un poco la utopía antropocéntrica, ¿no?, de tenerlo todo el mundo de fuera adentro, ¿no? No sé si hemos avanzado tanto en el salir afuera como en el traer adentro, ¿no? Y quería saber un poco pues, tu opinión o tu percepción, o sea, eres optimista en cuanto a la tecnología como forma de conocer el mundo, o crees que al final en realidad te reduce, ¿no?, más que amplía nuestro saber del mundo, por el hecho de verte en una sala con tal inundación de datos, supuestamente sintiendo toda la agitación del planeta?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I think in art, in opposite to science, you can just try to touch something. Like you can try to get an idea about a situation what we cannot understand in the moment. And it's not a question of being optimistic or non-optimistic. For me, it's a fact that we are getting more and more in a symbiosis between man and machine, and also in a relation to nature. So using this media is also to get somehow a little bit closer to something what is very difficult to understand. In an abstract way, it's always very easy, but if you see visual, it gives you an another idea or another image. For instance, you don't have eyes to see inside of Earth. What you can see in my installation there inside the building, and we just don't have any possibility to see earthquakes or tectonics or something. We can feel it maybe if you are in an area where it's just happening an earthquake, but on the other hand, using the media, you get so many informations that an earthquake is, or that tectonic is a very natural phenomenon and it's always going on. And this is through the medium internet, a perspective what is historically absolutely new. And also what you see in the installation is a kind of artificial intelligence already. That's what I try to explain with automatic communication. And what it means to us is questions what just raise up. And I don't think in a symposium or at a panel you can find solutions. It's basically something where you can touch something and you can bring in new ideas. So for me, it's not a question of being optimistic or non-optimistic. It's more to handle the situation what is new for me also.
Yo también estoy convencido que el territorio del arte es el que intenta explicar lo inexplicable. Siempre el arte nos enseña cómo somos nosotros por dentro, o sea, el artista te enseña cómo es él por dentro físicamente y psicológicamente, y luego cómo ven también su entorno, cómo es el entorno que le rodea. Pero en definitiva siempre es algo inexplicable, o sea, con palabras o con acciones no se puede explicar, y de ahí sale la necesidad de hacer una experiencia, de generar una experiencia artística para intentar comprender lo que nos rodea. Que estoy de acuerdo con él, a veces lleva varias generaciones para esa acción que sea comprendida, o sea, más que comprendida, sea útil para la sociedad.
I would like to ask Franz how many seismic stations were combined, what was the principle of choosing those, did you detect the Indonesian tsunami, for example, and then what is your principle of combining the signals from the various seismic stations?
These are several questions now.
Yes.
Who was talking now that I see the person? Was it you? This is a very complex question, and we are not having a lot of time. I try to answer in brief. Of course, I could see that not the tsunami, but the earthquake what caused the tsunami in December. And you can, how do you say, what we combine in the exhibition is that we get data from all stations what exist on the globe, and there are about 200 stations what measure all this data, and they are sent around in the internet. So where we grab the data is when they arrive on seismological servers or on servers of seismological institutes. And these are not data what you can find usually on a web browser. These are data what are directly communicated between scientists to get as soon as possible informations. But what I try to avoid is to get too much into this sensation or this looking for a disaster, because earthquake, every scientist will, or every seismologist will explain it the same way. It's a very natural thing going on permanently. We have several millions of earthquakes per year, and that's what I try to capture here in this installation. So the tsunami is a sensation in the moment it goes into the media. And like everywhere, like 1 year ago, there was a big earthquake in Iran. Nearly nobody talks in Iran, with several thousand people being dead, and nearly nobody talks about this anymore. So that's how you can see it's only a media aspect usually, how people are interested in it. And I want to bring more to give the people an idea and an access to the phenomenon that every time, everywhere, or nearly everywhere, something like this can happen.
Veo una como separación muy clara entre las obras expuestas aquí. Vemos las obras de Mariela y de Evru trabajan con imaginario respecto a la vida o a la descomposición de la vida, del cuerpo, de las neuronas, etc. Pareciera que es un trabajo mirando la ciencia, y el trabajo de Franz es todo lo contrario digamos que su metodología está lejos de utilizar el imaginario, más bien genera una ansiedad respecto a esto. Nos muestra datos y se supone, nos dicen, esos datos contienen información de una serie de comportamientos que avanzan a una escala muy grande y de mucha trascendencia para la humanidad. Entonces creo que hay una oposición muy fuerte, y que además se puede ver creo que en otras obras que están aquí en Banquete, que es como una mirada desde el arte hacia el imaginario que produce la ciencia, y una mirada desde la ciencia que es aséptica respecto al imaginario. Planteo esa posibilidad, esa fractura, como al menos como una pregunta para cualquiera de los tres. Es decir, la pregunta es si realmente ven que hay dos formas radicalmente distintas de abordar digamos, la conjunción del arte y la ciencia, o si creen que son conciliables. Para cualquiera.
Yo no estoy de acuerdo en que el imaginario no forma parte de la ciencia, totalmente el opuesto. Yo creo que es imprescindible que el científico sea creativo, tenga una parte imaginaria, y siempre, o sea, hay un texto que siempre me ha impresionado mucho, es el de Jacques Monod, que habla del azar y la necesidad. O sea, por azar, según Monod, se encontraron dos bacterias, y como se necesitaron, se unieron y finalmente fueron conformando estos cuerpos que son los que tenemos ahora. Y entonces en la ciencia siempre se utiliza el azar, y dentro del azar, pues el arte también es el territorio del azar. O sea, se te cae una mancha de pintura o lo que sea, te pasa algo, y eso es lo que te da la solución a veces al problema o al conflicto en el que has entrado. O sea, que la creatividad forma parte de los dos territorios. Yo no creo que haya una contradicción o una confrontación, al contrario, y cada vez más en las universidades, en los departamentos creativos, los departamentos científicos, se trabajan en interrelación, y realmente un programador como él yo creo que la gente más creativa que hay en el presente. O sea, que son justo los que llamamos científicos dentro del trabajo de una pieza interactiva, pero realmente a veces son los que aportan más ideas y los que son más imaginativos, ¿no? El artista igual te hará ver esto, te hará entender esta parte estética o sonora, pero el creativo es realmente esta unión entre el artista y el científico. Eso al menos es lo que yo pienso. Luego igual hay gente que no está de acuerdo.
¿Alguna pregunta más?
Yo simplemente, a mí me gusta mucho lo que ha dicho Evru, simplemente añadir que en el caso de la pieza de Franz, de Turing Tables, a mí me parece que me estimula mucho la imaginación. O sea, sentarme y estar ahí. O sea, yo entiendo que son aproximaciones diferentes, ¿no? Y yo creo que quizá cuando hablamos de tecnología, quizá una conexión entre nosotros es que estamos trabajando con la tecnología, pero también sobre la fragmentación, ¿no? Que quizás son diferentes aproximaciones, pero en ese aspecto yo no creo que haya como tanto como dos y uno, sino que cada proyecto habla de la fragmentación de la tecnología y cómo utiliza eso para procesar información y cómo nosotros lo utilizamos para procesarlo de formas diferentes. Y en el caso, por ejemplo, o sea, yo entiendo que una pieza como Levántate tiene mucho que ver con un imaginario que no es visible, ¿no? Pero sí trata mucho de cómo los científicos intentan imaginar e intentan codificar. No sé exactamente en qué estoy añadiendo a lo que tú has comentado, pero eso es lo que quería añadir.
Bueno, pues si os parece, podemos hacer una pausa. Solo deciros que trataremos de incluir la presentación de Ursula Damm en otro momento, a lo largo de la mañana o si no, en la sesión de mañana. Bueno, gracias.
Solo añadir una cosa. Es que acabo de caer, es por alusiones, acabo de caer en que el proyecto de las sombras es una beca que he presentado para un proyecto que estoy haciendo ahora, que se titula Giordano Bruno o El secreto de las sombras. O sea que a lo mejor has leído eso.
I just wanted to say something. You were talking about the creativity of programming being somehow. It seems. I think there's a rationalism and there's an importance of technology over art. I think they're both just forms of language, and I think that the belief that programming is more important and or creative and or interesting than an artistic kind of approach is a result of what I would call techno-formalism. Formalism. I don't agree that technology and or programming is more important than an artistic approach.
No, I didn't say it was more important. I just said that it is what is more or less is the less important. I said that it's similar. I mean, the approach that a scientist does to creativity as the one that an artist does. It seems that it's very different, but it's exactly the same. I said when I first talked that all of us, we have an artist, a scientist, and a mystic inside of us. And I think that this is a constant in all human beings, artists and scientists. As I say, you cannot even make a difference. Inside of you, there is an artist and there is a scientist. Because you do use in your activities during the day, you do both things. You have to be creative and you have to be scientific or rational. You know, but science is not only rational. Science deals with chaotic experience, all kinds of things. But I mean, there is not a contradiction. I think that is part of all of us. I mean, even we come into the point that we say that animals have no soul, that way we can eat them. I mean, it's the same thing that people used to say with savages in the early times. They say, oh, these people are savages, so we can kill them and take advantage of them. So we do the same thing with animals. And even a plant has its own territory, I mean, it's just based, and it has an energy that so maybe that's how you can explain what is the soul of the plant. No? But I mean, going back to what you said at the beginning, I don't think there's a difference between science, that we all have a scientist and an artist inside of us, and an emotional part or a spiritual part.
And I think that what Evru had originally said was that programmers are exceptionally creative people, and I have to agree with that, because if you think about the evolution of computer programming languages, here we're talking about languages which every year almost double their vocabulary and their grammatical structures. And so computer programmers, just to keep their paycheck coming in, have to continually be learning book after book after book after book as to how this language is evolving, just to keep up with the technology which they're trying to actually talk to through this language. So,
but I think there's a trend in new media work where programming and or work that's technologically essentialist dominates more content-based work. And there's not always work that has an equal kind of fusion between kind of, I guess, interesting content and an interesting technological application. I think that there's not. I mean, it's starting to change, but
it's slowly changing, but until now, I mean, our society, we're definitely a content consumption society, and it's definitely true that there is a lot less people creating content than there are people consuming content. That is an absolute fact. And yeah, getting people sort of up to date and savvy with the languages and the skills and the tools in which to create content is also a harder and harder job as the tools get more complicated and the languages develop. Yeah, keep creating.
I mean, their example is very clear. I mean, in a way, it's just like two cells exciting one another. I mean, like she has an idea, she contrasts the idea with him, then he programs this idea, and then the feedback that she gets from the programming that he's done, I mean, gives her another idea to send again a signal to him, so he keeps, and the whole project has to do with that. I mean, my project is the same thing. It's my work with programmers. I mean, and there is this dialogue between both fields, and I learn things from the programmer, and the programmer excites his imagination with the needs that I have to in that moment. Understand?
Maybe I can add here something that what he's here all in common is also that I think that the role of artist always has changed in relation to the media he or she use, like in the 15th or 16th century or before, a painter was somebody who could mix his colors. It was something very complicated. Yeah, it wasn't even maybe not so important what you paint, it was more important where to get the colors and how to produce it. And so the media are always in change, and that's what I also described, wanted to describe in the beginning with the camera obscura, and I called it the first new medium, that in 2000 years we have such a simple medium, but in relation to the social use, the medium itself has always, no, the medium couldn't change, but the use of the medium has changed so much, how we regard it. And in the new media nowadays, in the internet and so on, there are a lot of theorists like Jonathan Crary who describes the virtual room with the camera obscura again, where everywhere is full of images, and everywhere you touch and you try to go, everything is in a similar condition, like in this relatively old media.
And then there is a constant to that technology. The only thing that does is that a process that already exists. In his case, is the earthquakes. In the case of a microscope, I mean, there is a bacteria here, and the only thing it does, basically technology does, is accelerates a process. I mean, I accelerate my view, and then I finally see the bacteria. But if there is no bacteria there, if there is no earthquake, technology doesn't bring me anywhere. The only thing that I do is to amplify or accelerate the process, and that's this kind of vision. In his case, the feeling of the moving of the earthquakes in this planet. But the science, the only thing that does is as I insist, accelerate and increase, augmentate that process. And that way we can see it. I mean, like in her project, the same thing. The decay of the body exists in their system. They accelerate this process, and we can see it in real time. I mean, that's the thing that technology is giving us, the possibility of seeing. And in the case of, as he was saying, the pencil, the same thing. As I don't not to dirty my hands, I put a piece of wood around the graphite, and that way I can do it. It's easier and it's faster and it's accelerated my process of drawing in that case.